Mr. President, I'm reaching out to you. Yeah, sure, you're the president. That's why. But as a father, one father to another. A man, one man to another. One human being to another. Just a couple of guys. What if, in the end, your legacy is not defined by your 8 years in office, but instead by the very last month of your presidency? What if your legacy is not a checklist of accomplishments as steward of the U.S. federal government? I voted for you twice, by the way. But instead that of the U.S. president who paved the way for the fascist administration that followed. I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm just asking. And of course, I don't know the answer. But I do know, as just one example of why I'm asking, what I see at Standing Rock, North Dakota. I'm seeing video footage from citizens doing the work of real journalists. It shows local law enforcement proxies for a single private corporation using water cannon in sub-freezing temperatures, rubber bullets, pepper spray, mass arrests, some kind of exploding canister on our fellow citizens, peacefully and respectfully exercising their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. These water protectors, Mr. President, they have the audacity of hope that someone will listen and understand that they refuse to risk their water supply being poisoned by a leaking pipeline, that they refuse to cede their historical and treaty rights to the land which multiple administrations have violated. I don't pretend to know the complexities of eminent domain, jurisdiction, or territorial disputes. But I do know, as one small example of the death by 1,000 nicks of American democracy, that your federal government in the form of the FAA has just issued a contemptible and bogus temporary flight restriction over Standing Rock, essentially preventing half a dozen amateur hobbyists from continuing to fly their tiny drones. I mean, we're talking 4 pounds and less than 2 feet wide, from flying with their cameras to film the truth. Have you watched any of it, Mr. President? It's shameful. I don't know you personally, but I do know it highly unlikely that you'd allow your daughters to be subjected to this kind of intimidation and danger. And I imagine you'd swell with pride if they decided to stand on the right side of history and went to Standing Rock. I know I'm proud of my daughter who already has. Mr. President, please, go to Standing Rock. Tear up that FAA temporary flight restriction. Tear up the policy of treating Native Americans as third-class people and violating their rights for generations and generations. Tear up the idea that compromise is always the wisest course of action. Tear up the idea that you'll just let things play out. Mr. President, stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. Stop the police violence and mendacity there. Stop corporations from running over the American people. Stop allowing the power of government to be a tool of oligarchs. Please, Mr. President, stand up. Use your last month in office to do the right thing. Go to Standing Rock.